Emma lived in a small village near the mountains. She was young, simple, and quiet. Everyone in the village called her the stupid wife, not because she was truly stupid, but because she always smiled, stayed silent, and never fought. Back, people said her husband Victor was a clever man, rich, smart, respected. But what they didn't see was the pain behind Emma's smile. Victor never loved her. He had married her only because she was easy to control. He never hit her, no. He hurt her in ways more painful than bruises. With every silence, every insult, every night he came home drunk and threw her food on the floor. He killed a part of her soul. The villagers often laughed behind her back. "She's lucky to have him," they whispered. "At least he feeds her." But they never knew that love wasn't food. It was warmth. It was safety. It was kindness. Things she had never felt in that house. Every morning, Emma made tea, ironed Victor's clothes, cleaned the house, and stood by the door like a forgotten statue as he left for work, not once turning back to say goodbye. Every night, she waited at the window, hoping maybe this time he would come home with a smile. Maybe this time he would say her name softly. Maybe this time he would ask, "Are you okay?" But every night only the sound of the door slamming open came, and sometimes the cold wind was kinder than the man she had married. She had no parents left, no friends, no children. Just one broken chair on the porch, a kettle that whistled too loud, and a heart that forgot how to beat with joy. And yet, she smiled. Every day. Every time. And that's why they called her the stupid wife. But behind that smile was a story, a secret, a past, and soon, a storm. One rainy afternoon, Emma sat by the window, her fingers gently tracing the cold glass. The mountains were covered in fog, like they were hiding something, just like her. She took a deep breath and reached under her old bed where she kept a wooden box locked for years. Inside it was a letter. A letter she'd written 5 years ago, but never sent. "Dear Mama, I hope you are well in heaven. I don't know who else to talk to. Victor doesn't love me, Mama. He doesn't even see me. I cook for him, I clean for him, I wait for him. And yet I feel like a shadow in this house. I wanted love. I wanted a family. But all I got was silence. Sometimes I wonder if disappearing would hurt less than living." Her hands shook as she read her own words, written with desperation, pain, and a small dying hope. She had never posted it because no one was left to receive it. But today, something in her chest felt heavier than before, like the letter was calling her back to life. Or to something even darker. She folded it gently, kissed it, and put it back. That evening, Victor came home angry. As always, "Where's my dinner?" he shouted, slamming his briefcase on the floor. Emma didn't say a word. She just placed the plate on the table and stepped back like she always did. But tonight, something changed. Victor threw the food to the ground. "You're useless, like always. Just standing there like a dumb little puppet. Look at you, even your silence is pathetic." Emma looked at the broken plate, then at him. And for the first time in years, she blinked and didn't look away. There was something in her eyes, not tears, not fear, something deeper, a quiet fire, but it faded quickly. She bent down and cleaned the mess like always. And Victor walked away, laughing. But upstairs, in the quiet of her room, she took out the letter again. This time she didn't put it back in the box. This time she left it on the table. Opened up because sometimes a letter isn't meant to be sent. Sometimes it's meant to be found. And tomorrow something would change. The next morning, Emma walked down the muddy road to the village bakery. She didn't speak to anyone. Just like every other day. The old women selling fruit didn't even look at her anymore. Children ran past her like she was invisible, but Emma didn't mind. She was used to it. At the bakery, she waited in line. Just as her turn came, the baker looked over her shoulder and served someone else, a loud woman with bright lipstick and a sharp tongue. Emma stepped back quietly. She had no strength to argue. "Excuse me," a deep voice said behind her. "I believe it's her turn." Emma turned slowly. He stood tall with dark hair and tired eyes, but kind. His name was Elliot, a traveler, just passing through, looking for a place to rest for the week. He wore a long coat, had a suitcase by his side, and eyes that looked like they had seen many storms, maybe even bigger than hers. The baker, embarrassed, apologized, and quickly handed Emma her bread. She whispered a soft thank you without meeting Elliot's eyes. But as she turned to leave, he gently said, "Don't let them treat you like you don't exist." She stopped. No one had ever said that to her. Not in years, maybe. Not ever. That night, as Victor drank downstairs, Emma stood near her mirror and whispered the sentence again. "Don't let them treat you like you don't exist." It echoed in her mind like a song from another life. A life she had forgotten, a voice she had buried. Elliot didn't know her. He didn't know her story. But one sentence from a stranger had shaken something inside her. A sentence that felt more like a rescue rope than advice. The next day, Emma saw Elliot again at the church, then at the market, and again by the lake. Always with a calm smile, always nodding politely, never pushing. Victor, meanwhile, grew colder, angrier. He noticed Emma had started brushing her hair again. That she took longer walks. That she didn't flinch when he raised his voice. "Are you seeing someone?" he asked one night, his eyes bloodshot. Emma looked up. "I don't see anyone," she said softly. "I only see what I've become." Victor scoffed and left the room, but her words stayed behind, and for once, the silence felt like it belonged to her. Days passed, and Elliot kept showing up in the corners of Emma's world, never too close, never intrusive. Just enough to remind her she was not invisible. They spoke only once more by the river. "You always sit alone," he said gently. Emma didn't smile. She simply said, "Alone is safer." Elliot looked at her, his voice barely above a whisper. "No. Alone is quieter, not safer." She wanted to cry. Not because of the words, but because of how true they felt. But she held back, like always. That evening, Victor came home earlier than usual. His face red, his breath sour with whiskey. He had found the open letter on the table. "You think you're clever?" he growled. "Writing letters to ghosts now?" Emma stood still. Victor waved the letter in the air, mocking her every word. "You want to disappear? You think I'd even notice if he did?" Something inside her snapped, not with anger, not with rage, but with pure, final sadness. "I wasn't writing to be noticed," she said softly. "I was writing because I was dying." Victor's face twisted. He slapped her hard. The sound echoed in the room like thunder. For a second, the world stopped. Emma didn't fall. She didn't cry. She just touched her cheek and smiled, not because she was weak, but because for the first time she felt something. Victor stood there, confused. This wasn't the reaction he expected. Emma turned and walked away, up the stairs, into her room. Closed the door. Locked it. She sat in front of her mirror, her cheeks still red, her eyes calm. And she whispered, "Now you've touched my face. And for the first time, I see it." That night, she didn't sleep. She packed a small bag, took the letter, and left the door unlocked behind her. Outside, the cold air kissed her face, but it was gentle, unlike him, and far ahead. Under the dim light of the street, Elliot was still. There. Waiting. Elliot didn't ask questions. He saw the red mark on Emma's cheek and said nothing, not out of fear, but out of respect. Sometimes silence is the only way to let a person breathe. He simply opened the car door. Emma sat beside him, her hands shaking, her heart louder than the engine. They drove through forests, past empty fields, and into towns where no one knew her name for the first time in years. She wasn't Emma, the stupid wife. She was just Emma, a woman. A person. They stopped at a quiet inn near the hills. Elliot paid for 2 rooms. Separate. No questions. No expectations. Emma stood by the window of her room that night, watching the stars. She didn't cry. Not because she didn't want to, but because her tears had dried long ago. The next morning, she found a note under her door. "I don't know what you're running from, but wherever you're going, you don't have to go alone." Elliot. She folded the note and kept it close to her heart. But fear crept back in. What if Victor came looking for her? What if he twisted the story, told the police she was mentally unstable, like he always threatened? By evening, her fear turned real. The innkeeper received a call. A man claiming to be her husband, loud, aggressive, threatening. Emma ran outside. She had to go. She couldn't let Elliot get dragged into her storm, but he was already waiting by the car. "I know," he said. "I have to go alone." She whispered, "No." He replied, "This time you'll fight, not run." Emma's voice broke. "I don't know how to fight." You already did, Elliot said, when you walked away. His words shattered something inside her, not her fear, but the belief that she deserved to be afraid. Together, they drove to the city to a lawyer's office. She filed a restraining order. She gave her testimony. For the first time, her voice was written, signed, stamped. Real. Victor tried to fight it, but the law saw through his charm, her bruises, her letter, her silence. It all spoke louder than his lies. Emma didn't celebrate. There were no fireworks. No happy tears. Just breath, free, quiet, deep breath. 6 months later, the village had forgotten Emma. That's how the world works. It forgets the quiet ones first. But in the small town by the coast, where the sea whispered like an old friend, Emma now lived in a one-bedroom apartment above a bookstore. She worked there during the day, arranging books, making tea, and greeting customers with a calm, soft voice. No one called her stupid here. No one called her anything. Really. She was just Emma. Sometimes Elliot would visit, not always, not every week, but enough to remind her someone once saw her when the whole world looked away. They didn't fall into some perfect romance. There were no dramatic kisses or fairy tale endings. But one Sunday morning, as they walked by the ocean, Elliot asked, "Do you miss your old life?" Emma smiled, a real quiet smile. "No," she said. "I miss the girl I could have been. If someone had loved me earlier." He looked at her with eyes full of sorrow and respect. "And who are you now?" She turned toward the sea. "I'm someone I finally recognize." There were no more bruises, no more slammed doors, but sometimes at night she still heard Victor's voice, in dreams and silence, in the way her hands sometimes trembled. Healing is slow, but she had started. She had won. Not by revenge. Not by shouting. But by walking away and never turning back. The last thing she did before closing the bookstore one evening was frame that letter, the one she never sent, and hang it on the wall behind the counter. A customer once read it and asked, "Is that from a book?" Emma smiled. "No, that's from a woman who forgot she mattered. And then remembered.